Hello guys, welcome back to the Magical Mallet. I will be discussing hand traps today and why they've invaded everybody's deck. Invaded being good or bad. I personally think hand traps are healthy for the game right now. It's kind of like that whole debate about a year ago, where whether or not kaijus were healthy for the game. And when I was at that time, I was thinking kaijus are busted. But nowadays, I'm just thinking, they were a necessary evil, and so are hand traps. Hand traps are a necessary evil right now. Now, I'll be going over every hand trap, starting from chronologically. I'm not sure which release order they are in, but I'm going to go by what I think is right. To start things off, we have Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler states that you can discard this card during your opponent's main phase 1, target one effect monster, and if you do, negate its effects. Now, again, hand traps are good right now because they stop opponents' turns. They act as a way so that people who go second, or players who go second, have a chance to play the game before your opponent can make a crazy board that is unoutable. Almost. And so, being able to halt your plays with your opponent's plays with Effect Veiler, such as Manju, Isolde, insert name of other Link monster. That I'm gonna go over to Ghost Ogre. This is the one that I think of next. Ghost Ogre states that you can discard this card or remove it from the field whenever your opponent activates its effect, and if you do, destroy that card. Now, this card has seen some play in the past. It doesn't really see much play now. I do think that it will come back, though, especially when we're not going to get there yet. Again, it can out monsters and stuff like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno whenever it activates its effect. It can take out monsters that they need to Link climb with. Goes through, but it's destroyed. And that can be important in some cases, such as with Crusadias. Crusadias can get shafted by Ghost Ogre. Electromite can get shafted by Ghost Ogre. I mean, I don't know when Ghost Ogre is going to come back, but it's definitely a card that will always be a sleeper pick. And whenever the meta calls for it, it will be there. Now I'm going to go on to Ghost Reaper. Ghost Reaper is pretty good. Expensive to run, not expensive itself. It requires you to run expensive cards such as, well, maybe not anymore, Mechaba. Right now, I would think Alistair, the Invoker of Madness, will end up in people's extra decks. Maybe become meta, we don't know yet. But it states that whenever your opponent has more cards than you, or more monsters on the field than you, you can discard this card from your hand, and if you do, target one monster in your extra deck, reveal it, and then your opponent has to reveal their extra deck, and then if they have any of the copies of the card that you revealed in their extra deck, they have to banish those copies. Now, this stops strategies like ABCs outright. Even some pendulum strategies just shut down because Electromite's gone. But the people don't really run it because most decks need their extra deck space so that they can do their plays, and their extra deck is almost full by the time the deck building is done. They have to run certain cards or else the strategy just falls apart. And there's nothing else really to say about the card. The card's good, and you see it in some Altergeist profiles because they don't need their extra deck as much as other people do. They only need about 4 slots, maybe even just 3. But the rest of them can just be Winter Cherry's targets. Now the next Handtrap I want to talk about is Ash Blossom, everybody's favorite. And the card that is in every competitive player's deck. And for good reason. It stops a search, or something going to the graveyard from the deck, or being special summoned from the deck. It didn't things. And with that little halt in people's ways, in the way of the peoples, I don't know what I'm going with that. But what I'm trying to say is that whenever Ash Blossom gets played, it basically, well, unless you try to play around the Ash Blossom and you bait it out, it ends in a pretty bad situation for you. You make a weaker board than you could have made, and you may not be able to lock your opponent out for their turn to start. And so we have a little predicament where, is Ash Blossom cancer or is Ash Blossom necessity? Because people who want to combo off and then they just see Ash Blossom get thrown at them, they're like, oh, that's players who have the Ash or play stally decks are like, I mean, it helps me and makes you so you can't lock me out of my play. So it's a weird little predicament where Ash Blossom is a necessary evil, so that players who go second have a chance, while those who have Ash Blossom played at them on them makes it feel like, oh, well, now my turn is gone and I lost the game. Now, if most competitive players have dealt with the fact that Ash Blossom is going to be there and don't feel like that anymore. I almost forgot to mention Droll and Lockbird. Droll and Lockbird has came up within the past meta. Didn't really see much play prior to that in the past year, but I've seen some play in actually last format. My bad. But whenever your opponent adds a card from their deck to the hand, discard this card from your hand, and if you do, neither player can add cards from their deck to the hand for the rest of the turn. Now, that's really good. They get their one search though, but they completely stops turns, and that's why a lot of people want to see it on the ban list. That's one of the reasons why, mostly because of the Droll reincarnation lock that stars are able to do, because Trickstar reincarnation's at 3, Candine is at 3, Droll is at 3. So getting Droll reincarnation isn't out of the question. It's plausible. Now, Droll and Lockbird has seen a lot of success as of late because Gokis exist. And it's seen some play in the past because the True Dracos, the demise True Draco build was extremely good at the time, and if you Droll and locked them, they couldn't do insane draws or anything. It wasn't the most busted card for them, but it definitely helped, facilitated in making sure that you can making sure you can stop True Dracos before they went too far. Now, this brings me to Ghost Spell. Ghost Spell hasn't seen much play other than in some decks where they would want to negate Call by the Grave with Ghost Spell. Stop BAs maybe, but other than that, Ghost Spell hasn't seen much play. So the hand traps are very meta dependent, and right now the current meta doesn't need Ghost Spell. And this will bring me to Psy-Frame Gamma. This one's an interesting case because Psy-Frame Gamma cannot be hit by Call by the Grave. It special summons itself with Psy-Frame Driver from the deck. Well, the Gamma special summon from your hand, Driver special summon from the deck to negate a monster effect. And I'm pretty sure it destroys it. It forces you to run against Psy-Frame Driver, which is a level 7, I believe. 2500 attack, 0 defense monster in your deck because you have to have Driver in order to play Gamma. But not many people have been playing Gamma as much because Infinite Impermanence exists, and Infinite Impermanence is just better because you don't have to draw the Garnet. You don't have to risk drawing the Garnet, aka the Driver. You can call it a Garnet. But Gamma saw play in Invoked Mech Knights. And Invoked Mech Knights played that card because they had enough free space in the world to throw in hand traps and all that, which actually ended up being pretty funny because they ended up losing the hand traps, which is why they fell out the meta. Go figure. They may come back though. This will bring me to Infinite Impermanence, the last hand trap that I'm going to talk about. Infinite Impermanence is a really good hand trap, strictly because it's also a trap. I would go over to evenly matched and stuff, but I don't consider that hand trap because the way that I understand a hand trap is it disrupts your opponent's turn before they can do anything, while evenly matched states that well, you go into your battle phase and then you end your battle phase and then you banish all but one of your opponent's monsters. Most of the time. It says that they can only have cards equal to how many you have on the field. So, same thing. People usually only play it on the first turn, on their first turn, so they can banish all the opponent's monsters face down, so they wasted their resources, basically. But, back to Infinite Impermanence. Again, it cannot be hit by Call by the Grave. You target one monster, and then you negate its effects. It's a solid hand trap, to say the least. Other than that, there's not much else to really say about Infinite Impermanence. It's just really good. It stops a monster effect, so it stops Solday, stops Electromite, stops insert every other card, every other good effect monster out there that activates on the field. So, yeah. Again, the three top hand traps right now would be Ash Blossom, Infinite Impermanence, and Droll and Lockbird, without a doubt. And their success leads to them being in multiple decks. Stopping plays is a good way to make sure you can do yours. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that. The things, all those things, yeah. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. I did a mini lat outro by accident. You know what? Just cut.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow.